got to change the way services respond to men. Why is it hard to put others first instead of our own health? Losing a parent and losing your father is devastating, right?
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of 5, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. This is part 2 of our powerful conversation with Todd Minerson from Movember Canada. In this episode, we shift from the challenges to the opportunities, exploring what's actually working in men's health and the critical need for more government action and investment. You'll also hear personal reflections from both Todd and our hosts on our own health journeys and why showing up for your health is one of the most courageous things a man can do. All right, let's get into it.
Can you maybe share more from the report on what those experiences might need to look like moving forward, or the reality of what some of those experiences are based on the stories in the report, and how we might want to see those shift to be more effective? Because as you said, that I could see how that would really touch the heart with the idea that men have been seeking this support, but it's not somehow working for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting me like a little bit verklempt right now, to be honest, just even thinking about it. But it's a really excellent question, Drew, because we have to dig a little deeper to understand what that is. And so in terms of understanding it, there's more research to do for sure, but we've developed a program called Men in Mind that is working to help counselors and therapists understand better approaches to engaging men successfully in mental health care. And in some of that work, we're finding that the stuff that is a barrier for men are on our side as men ourselves, an inability or a difficulty in expressing what actually is wrong. It's maybe easier to talk about I'm working too much, or I'm not eating well, or I probably drink too much, or whatever the circumstance may be, than perhaps it is for us to talk about the pain or the trauma that might be behind that, or at the heart of that kind of, we call it maladaptive coping behavior, right?
So more the symptoms than the root cause.
Exactly. It's hard for guys to talk about it. It's harder for practitioners to get there as well, because we just kind of rub up against each other, right? Like, and don't really have that ability. Other things that we're learning, like men feeling they aren't heard, or they're being rushed, or practitioners saying, well, I don't really know how to break through to this guy. I ask all the questions on the form here, but I'm not getting the answers, and I'm feeling like there's something more there, but I don't really know how. So there's like a
Can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
That really stood out to me. And maybe you just threw it out there, but I don't know what to do here. I asked all the questions on the form.
Yeah.
I mean, I see issues with that right away in terms of that's great, but you're dealing with a person.
Yeah.
So that's, and I don't want to get tripped up on that, but I have a feeling that might be some of the reality for some of the practitioners. And that's where this idea of, skilling or preparing or training practitioners to recognize and to approach this from a more effective way might be viable. So I apologize to interrupt, but to me, that really stood out to me.
I'll share a little personal story here, because I think it's important for us to do that kind of stuff, right? Like, I had a point in my life where I had some people around me really say, you need to get some help. You got a lot going on. You don't seem well. You need to talk to somebody. I went to a few different places to try to find out what would be right. I did, I had one of those moments, the kind of light from the clouds kind of moments in one of these things. And you know what, Drew, it was around a form. Right? Intake person was like going through this form with me and asking me a bajillion questions. And I was answering them, as honestly as I could. And there came up a bunch of questions around kind of trauma and things that I had witnessed in my life. And he started asking these things, and I'm like, yes, yeah to that one, yes to that one, yes to that one. And all of a sudden it was like, he's like, you've been exposed to a lot of trauma. Like this could be part of what the problem is here. And I was like, the first time I ever put those pieces together, from this form. Then we get into this support group. It was kind of around grief and loss, and it was all guys in this group. And Ed, I got a feeling you're gonna have a laugh at this one. So please feel free to laugh with me. The facilitator would start every session with how are you guys feeling today? And the only thing you were not allowed to say was fine, right? Because fine is not a feeling. And I just would, myself and like 7 or 8 other guys, struggle to even name an emotion that we were feeling, right? Like just putting a name to it. So like silence and why can't I say fine? Like I'm stuck here. Like the next week, the facilitator comes in and hands us all this like emotion wheel chart. It has probably about 70 or 80 emotions on it, all grouped in different families. I and these other guys, our faces light up. Whoa, there's words for these things. What are you talking about? There's words for these things that I'm feeling. This is incredible. Like, wow. And then you couldn't get guys to shut up about how they felt, right? So there's a form that was a blunt edge tool to kind of get me at least pointed in the right direction. But then that facilitator really went the extra mile to understand men's needs and starting to talk about it, which was amazing for me in a weird way. So anyways, I don't share that story often a lot. So there you go, Dad Central fans and family. But it's important that we talk about these things.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, Todd. In particular, I think that short element of the next week, bringing in this emotion wheel, speaks to the role and value that we as fathers can play in our families when we, let's say, be the ones who bring something like that home, or when we or we have these conversations with our partners, with our family about like, what emotions are you feeling? We had in the group last night one of the fathers sharing about he had a yellow, red, green, simple process of how he works with his 7-year-old around emotional regulation, right? So are you in yellow right now? And if you're in yellow, we're not going to talk. What we're going to do is we're going to take some positive behaviors. We're going to go read. We're going to go take a break. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to get something to eat. We're going to do these steps to begin to regulate yourself, to put yourself back into green before then we come back and we connect in yellow. And so to me, the real takeaway of that is that's the importance and value of the role of fathers in normalizing this conversation that brings up these real emotions that we all experience because we're human. We all have emotions. And beginning to shift that narrative to create healthier environments in our home around this emotional, the reality of our emotions and surfacing. Anyway, so I didn't want to.
One thing you said earlier, Drew, and I think it's really important, care as a leadership quality for fathers, caring as a strength, that to me is the ultimate end goal. Like, how do we bring that to what is at the forefront of fatherhood and masculinity? And it's not a throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. Like all of those ideas around fatherhood and masculinity, some of them are amazing. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious. There's nothing wrong with being, proud and all those kinds of good things. They can have a shadow side if they're not done with care, if they're not done with compassion and with empathy. And I loved how you said that in our pre-chat a little bit around, care as a leadership quality for fathers. I love it.
What rings in my heart right now, what you're sharing, Todd, is this report, but us investing in care. Like not only the money, not only the time, but the systems and the things that need to be done. We have to invest in it. It's not just, and the ripple effect is for generations.
Mm-hmm.
The investment of that facilitator saying they brought out that one thing one week, they invested more that next week and went deeper and created that safe embrace space for all of you to share about your health and your challenges. So I think it's a great story.
Yeah, and that's where we want to really go with the report too, Ed. It's Movember's known for individual action on a cause that we're talking about here, men's health, right? Like go grow a silly mustache for a month and raise some funds and awareness. And maybe you'll learn some things on the way too, like about what your risk of prostate cancer is, or how to have good conversations around mental health, or how you can be a more engaged and supportive father in your own world. But largely they've been focused on individual behavior change, and that's super important. But what we're learning from the report, and that's really the call to action, is we've got to change systems. We've talked about it here too. We've got to change the way services respond to men. And we have to invest in this as a problem and a challenge, because even, a minuscule percentage of that $12.4 billion it's costing us every year into men's health literacy, into prevention of things like colorectal cancer, into changing and challenging those stigmas and behaviors, into understanding why fathers have that question we started with, like, why is it hard to put others first instead of our own health? Those are all things that are going to invest in our own wellness, the care of our partners, our kids, our communities, and in the future. So it's not something that we used to say one follicle at a time. You can't do that kind of stuff one follicle at a time. You're going to need politicians and decision makers and governments to come to the table, come up with a plan to invest and find synergies and efficiencies to help better health outcomes, because at the end of the day, we're losing too many men still prematurely.
Drew?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As I was going through the future vision and in the report where it talks about investing in a Canadian national men's health strategy to improve health services, systems, and policies. And I love the three-prong approach, strengthening men's mental health literacy, building a healthcare system and workforce to deliver men's programs, and then advancing research to map and better respond to how men engage with their health. I mean, can you maybe point to, in each of those 3 years, something you feel is really relevant, and how we might be able to join in with Movember in pushing this forward?
I'm gonna tackle that a little differently if I could, Drew, because I think
absolutely
one of the things that we had a challenge with in the report was to narrow that down to three pillar areas, right? There's so many valuable pieces, and what we tried to do is elevate them into kind of core themes around investment. There's the research piece, the service piece, and then the men's health kind of behaviors and the stereotypes and stigmas. So there's really like hundreds or dozens of really quality things that could happen in all of those pillars. I'd love to just talk a little bit more about the appetite for change and the progress that we're seeing in other places and the hopefulness it brings me for here. I think I mentioned at the beginning, we did this report in Australia and the UK last year. We did it in the UK last July, I believe. And in February this year, they announced a commitment to a national men's health strategy. Half a year or a year or so of conversations with this data behind it. And they helped convince the government in the United Kingdom that this is needed. Similar progress and results in Australia. They had a federal election recently, about the same time as ours. And all the major parties in the election committed to investigating and providing funds for a men's health strategy. So it's a great hope of mine. I'm optimistic, even though the alarm bells are going off, that we can have these conversations and get to some of those places. And then the way I'll circle back to the question that you started with, Drew, is that we also know as Movember, we can't do it alone. We have to do it with Dad Central. We have to do it with groups that are looking at Indigenous men's health. We have to do it with research. We have to do it with community, and we have to do it with decision makers. So I think, in collaboration, we're going to find those spaces that can have the greatest impact in those three pillars. We're a little bit deliberately vague by not listing the hundreds of things that in one version of the report we could have listed in there for like the hundreds of steps that could be done. It's a little bit of the coalition of the willing too. Like, let's go where people are able and ready first, and bring the rest of the process along. So yeah, there's some exciting, I think, optimism even in this, salt and pepper mustache here as well.
I love it.
That's great. Thank you, Todd.
You guys know, when you have me on, there's mustache puns for days.
Of course. I know we're starting to run down on time. I have one more conversation piece. I want to put it out there that the report concludes by stating that, quote, healthier men mean a healthier world, unquote, and that improving men's health benefits everyone. For the men and fathers that are listening to you today, what is the most crucial message you want them to take away from this report? And what immediate actions can they implement in their own lives and communities?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question. I think the action that an immediate action you can do is have a look at the report, see what it means to you, share it if you can. A more personal action is to think about your health. It's Men's Health Week this week. If you're a man out there who has been delaying care for some reason, it's my deepest hope that this gives you the courage and the conviction to go and start addressing that, to start taking care of business. There's, each of us have our own health journey that we can do to start that path, even if it's not once a month, Mr. Once a month over here. But, the healthier men, healthier world, that is again to that first question. What is the real face of men's health? It's all of us. It's not just men. It's us as fathers, grandfathers, sons, partners, husbands, wives, it's everybody that's impacted by this. And the core of the message is, good health for men is a way to healthier communities for everybody. And that's something that we've really taken as our North Star at Movember now, as we've evolved into our kind of coming up to 20 years here in Canada. So yeah, it's a message that we all have a role to play, and we can all do it, whether it's personal or, society-wide.
I just want to say thank you, Todd, for joining us for this conversation, for sharing both vulnerably, but also very factually from the report itself, and just being a great advocate and support. So thank you.
Well, and right back at both of you and Dad Central. It's an honor to stand beside you folks on this stuff, and I hope to start of more and more together, because it's overdue, and we owe it to ourselves and to the guys in the world that we care about.
100%. And where's the best place people can get in touch with Movember? What are the best places?
Movember.com, Movember.ca on Twitter, Movember on Instagram. I'm not on the TikTok. I'm too old for that business. So I think we're on there too. I know you guys are going to put a link to the report in this podcast, and it would be a great honor for us to have people have a look at it and share what they think about it.
Well, Todd, I want to say it's a blessing and honor. We've known each other for a little bit now, and it was worth the wait. We've tried a few times to get you on, and the alignment finally happened. So I want to say to you, the Movember team, your family, and all men, fathers, male caregivers, and families around the world, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. Thank you so much. All right. Be well.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Drew, any takeaways?
Your health is important. Take care of it so you can help take care of your family. It's my takeaway.
My takeaway is that health is bigger than you, Dad. It's bigger than you. That's all I got to say. It's bigger than you. So as we finish up, as always, I want to say thank you to everyone. Both of us want to say thank you to everyone watching this or listening to this. As always, just don't manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much, and take care.